All right, let's dive in. We are about to tackle one of the biggest questions of our time. As artificial intelligence makes more and more decisions about our lives, how in the world do we make sure it's fair, transparent, and, actually trustworthy? Let's get into it.
Okay, picture this. You've just applied for something important, a job, a loan, maybe even an apartment. An algorithm is reviewing your application. Do you have any clue what it's looking for? Do you know why you might get rejected? For most of us, the answer is a hard no. It all just happens inside a black box.
And that right there brings us to our first section. Because whether we realize it or not, AI has become this new, invisible gatekeeper to pretty much all of modern opportunity.
What's really wild is just how fast this all happened. Algorithms are now quietly making these massive decisions about who gets a job interview, who's approved for a mortgage, who's next in line for medical care, and even who gets public benefits. These used to be decisions made by people. Now they're being made by code, more and more every day.
But, this whole idea of a supposedly neutral tool creating huge barriers for people, it's not actually new. In fact, we've seen this movie before. And looking back gives us a really powerful way to understand what's happening today. So let's hop in a time machine back to the 1970s and talk about something called the PACE exam. This was a standardized test for federal government jobs, and it was sold as this totally objective way to find the best people. The problem? Well, it had these huge racial disparities in who passed and who failed, acting as a major barrier for qualified minority applicants. It got challenged in court and, eventually, was replaced with methods that actually tested for skills you'd need on the job.
And the parallel to today is just striking. Just like that old exam, modern AI screeners are pitched as being neutral and super efficient. But the root issue is exactly the same. The exam had culturally biased questions. Today's AI is trained on decades of biased historical data. The result is dangerously similar, a system that can reproduce and even amplify discrimination. But now it's doing it at a massive, automated scale. So what do we do about this? This brings us to a whole new way of thinking about the problem, framing biased AI not as some kind of mysterious, uncontrollable force, but as something way more familiar, a defect in the code.
And here is the absolute crucial shift in thinking. AI isn't magic, it's a product. Real people make very deliberate choices about the data it learns from, the goals it tries to achieve, and whether or not it has to explain its reasoning. These are design choices, and just like with any other product, those choices can have defects.
Now, to really get this, we need two key legal ideas. First up is disparate impact. This comes straight out of civil rights law, and it basically says that a practice can be illegal if it harms a certain group, even if nobody meant for it to be discriminatory. It's the effect that matters, not the intent.
The second idea is design-defect, and this one comes from product-liability. Think about cars. The moment airbags became a feasible, safer alternative, building a car without them could suddenly be considered a design defect. It's the same logic we can apply to AI.
The legal test here is actually pretty straightforward. 1. Was there a safer alternative design? 2. Would that alternative have cut down on a foreseeable risk, like, say, discrimination? And 3. Was that alternative actually practical to build? If the answer to all those is yes, then you just might be looking at a design defect. So when you put these two big ideas together, you get this incredibly powerful new argument. The choice to use an opaque, black box AI for something as critical as hiring, that's a design choice. And given everything we know, the risk of it violating civil rights is completely foreseeable. So the question becomes, is there a safer alternative out there?
And the answer is yes, there is. Which brings us to the solution on the table, a paradigm called constitutional AI. It is a totally different way to build these systems, right from the ground out.
And wow, the contrast could not be more clear. A black box AI just learns from whatever historical data you feed it, biases and all, and its logic is a complete mystery. Constitutional AI, on the other hand, is guided by an explicit written constitution, a set of rules based on actual laws and policies. It doesn't just spit out a decision, it gives you an auditable reason why.
It all comes down to three main pillars. First, you have the Constitution, those written rules. Second, you get reasoning traces, a clear explanation, a paper trail for every single important decision. And third, a constitutional error rate, or CSR for short. This is like a built-in alarm system, constantly measuring how often the AI is breaking its own rules.
And let's be really clear here. This isn't science fiction.
This isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea. This is an engineering pattern that we can build right now with the technology we already have. It's all about making different and better design choices.
Okay, so if the tech is here, how do we make this the new standard? Well, that leads us to our final section, the actual roadmap for building AI we can trust.
It's going to take a three-pronged approach. The courts can start applying these design defect principles to AI cases. Regulators can create frameworks to gently guide companies toward these safer designs. And companies, well, they need to start treating AI risk as a serious board-level responsibility, not just some problem for the IT department.
One really important tool for regulators could be something called an Algorithmic Compliance Agreement. Think of it like a deal. A company agrees to build its AI the constitutional way and to report on its performance. In return, the regulator gives them clearer expectations and a much more predictable environment to work in.
Now, of course, this isn't free. Building a constitutional AI takes an upfront investment. But here's the thing. That investment is tiny compared to the enormous long-term risk of sticking with black box models. We're talking about fines, lawsuits, and the catastrophic loss of public trust when, not if, things go wrong.
At the end of the day, this is where we are. Regulation is coming one way or another. The choice we have is how we do it. We can either wait for a disaster and then react with a bunch of messy rules, or we can proactively adopt a smart, coherent framework like this one.
And that brings us to the final question, really the one for all of us. What kind of future are we designing right now? Are we building a world full of black boxes with endless liability and uncertainty? Or can we build glass boxes that operate with transparency and can actually earn our trust? The choice, and all the design work that comes with it, is up to us.